All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I think we will go ahead and get started. My name is Brad Carlin. I'm a senior consultant with TRG Arts, coming to you live and early in the morning from Austin, Texas. I am joined by my co-host today, Mr. David Brownlee. David, want to say hello?
Hello, everybody. I'm David Brownlee. I'm Director of International Strategy for TRG Arts, and I'm coming to you from a not too sunny Edinburgh.
Thank you all so much for taking some time to join us for the COVID-19 benchmark launch webinar. Right off the top here, I want to just say and send an enormous thanks to our partners and collaborators at Purple 7. There have been many people working hard behind the scenes to collect your data and start pulling this benchmark together incredibly quickly, to my colleagues at TRG Arts who have been working to put together the information for you and try to make these opportunities happen as quickly as possible. And of course, a final thanks to you all for participating and sharing your data and jumping in a spirit of community in this time, so that we may learn from each other in how best to thrive and to be resilient in spite of everything we're facing right now. So you can see that's us. Brad and David will be your guides and your hosts for this very first webinar for the COVID-19 benchmark. We imagine there will be more as we roll out more features, but we'll get into that later into the presentation. So without further ado, David, let's dive in here. And may I just start with a question? Why are we here? Not the big existential question, but why are we in this Zoom room right now? David, what is the point of all of this?
It's still a fairly big existential question. We're in unprecedented times. I think, Brad, you as a senior consultant at TRG will be telling organizations generally, go back, look at your data, look at the history, let's learn from that and let's respond to it in terms of making our decisions and seeing how we choose choices going forward. But we haven't got that luxury anymore, sadly. There's never been anything like the state that we're in now. And if we can't look back to history, the second best thing is to look to our peers and see how they're doing and see how we're comparing against them. And that's why, with our friends at Purple 7, we've come up with this benchmark. It should be really useful for individual organizations, and where we are determined that it is, and we'll keep developing it to make it even more useful. It's also going to be really useful on a national basis in the UK in terms of tracking where we are, what the impact has been, and seeing where recovery is taking place. And there's already been lots of interest from both Arts Council England and the Department for Digital Culture, Media and Sport around what you guys are all helping us to do. And I think that the next level will be when we get the US benchmark going. We've got over 100 organizations signed up now already to this. So we'll be able to start comparing and contrasting what recovery looks like in the UK versus what's happening in North America as well. So lots and lots of different layers of why this is really, really important, and why I want to add my thanks to yours, Brad, around everybody who's been a pioneer in this in terms of leaping in and helping to make it happen and make it happen so quickly. We started with a base of about 150 organizations in the UK who were signed up with Purple 7. We've increased that by about 50 already, but we could increase it by lots more. It's, as you know, it's absolutely free. And the more organizations we can get on here, the better. So if you have friends, colleagues, and other organizations who you think might not be part of the benchmark yet, do please ask them. We'd love to have them join us.
Good. I see we've had a few more people just join us here at the very top. Let me take this quick moment to point out a couple of just mechanical things in our Zoom time together. First, we are recording this session, and we'll send you all a link afterwards that you can share with colleagues and coworkers who aren't able to join us this afternoon. And secondly, there's an opportunity for you all to get questions And some of you are starting to figure that out already down at the bottom of your screen. You can send us a question. We'll do our best to answer as we go throughout the presentation. If we don't get to your question, then we're reserving some time here at the end where we can try to rapid fire through some of those questions. Okay, enough mechanics. Let's dive into how this works here, David. Who are we benchmarking against? Who is in the COVID-19 benchmark?
As I said, starting off with a base of 150, going up very swiftly to around about 200 organizations of quite broad different types. We've got some very, very big theatres. We've got some very small art centres. We've got some touring organisations. We've even got some ticket agents in there. And that means that if we look at the national benchmark, it gives us some interesting figures, but what it's not doing is comparing apples with apples. So what we've attempted to do is to take the whole basket of organizations and create 8 different pots, 8 different buckets based on what kind of organization they are. And you can see them all sitting in front of you at the moment. In terms of defining those organizations, I have to confess that that's been me using the best of my knowledge and ability to try and come up with what I think will be the best bucket for your organization. In some cases, I've got lots of knowledge. In other cases, I have very little. So apologies if I've got it wrong. It's very easy to change. So when you go in and see which bucket that we've placed you into, if you think one of these is more appropriate, just let us know and we will move you along.
David, as I look at some of these, I see one that says other. What does that one mean?
Other is collecting some very disparate and different organizations that I couldn't get to fit sensibly into anywhere else. So we have got some ticket agents in there, we've got some touring orchestras, and we've also got some festivals. Now, I'm really keen that if we can get some more festivals, that we pull out a different segment that is just festivals so they can compare and contrast against each other. So that's a really good example of if you can get some more of your colleagues to sign up to this, we will create a special festivals benchmark. For the moment, the others will be comparing against the entire benchmark though. So you're not comparing against other organizations that are completely different to you. It's against that big overall benchmark.
What if what if my organization has multiple performance spaces or multiple auditoria? If I have, different, a black box or a large presenting auditorium, how does that stack up or compare?
And that's going to be true for lots of people. Now, the way that it works is the feed comes in from the venue. So if you have a main house and a studio, it's all coming into the same place in terms of the data. So if you're a large producing house like that, you'll be in large producing house and your studio data will be considered as part of that as well. There's no way around that. Important to remember that if you're part of a group, the group feeds are taken at a venue level. So you will be able to report at your individual venue as opposed to the group as a whole.
Can I see who's in the data set so far, David? Can I see a list of organizations that are in these buckets or participating in the benchmark?
We haven't received or even asked for permission from organizations to publish the fact that they're part of this benchmark. So the answer to that is no. In the same way that we wouldn't give your organization's name out publicly, please don't ask us to share others.
Are there any limitations to people joining? I know you've invited other organizations to be a part of this, and we've got more room. Are there any limitations to it in terms of their CRM? Can we handle what CRMs can be imported, not imported?
CRMs that we can handle. Go in, get them to sign up on the form. If there's an issue, we'll come back to you. But for the vast majority of performing arts organizations in the UK, it's quick, it's easy, it's simple, and it's free.
Very good. All right. I'm ready to see the dashboard, David. I know the folks on our call are as well. Let's dive in.
Brad, you're going to have to wait 10 seconds before I unveil this.
Well, I've waited a few weeks to see it. I guess I can manage another 10 seconds, David, politely and calmly as I twiddle my thumbs and looking forward to seeing this. Just a reminder, folks on the call, as David is pulling that up, if you've got questions, you can post them by pressing the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. We'll do our best to answer them as we go, or if not, we'll get to them at the end.
And I shot past one thing before I do share the screen. Just some organizations will have a mixture of presenting and producing. A big presenting house that also has a large produced stage as well. Again, I may have put you in the wrong place, or you might want to be somewhere else. Just let us know, we'll move you. It's not a problem at all. Okay. I hope, Brad, you're seeing something that looks exciting and purple.
Yes, I do. How do we get into this, David? How do I access this homepage here for the?
Okay, anybody who's prior signed up to Purple 7, they will recognize this. And if this isn't the thing that immediately appears onto their screen, the easiest way to get to it is the select dashboard function up at the top right. Just click on the one that says COVID-19 dashboard, and that'll get you in there.
Great. And
now,
so when will folks be able to see this for themselves?
Some of you will be able to see this immediately, where this is, you've already got a dashboard and this has been added to it. Others, this will happen very shortly. And everybody who's new to this, who's just signed up, as soon as we're in a position where Purple 7 have got the data from you and it's all been hygiene checked and everything else, you'll get login instructions emailed through to you, which will, you'll have safe username, password, and all of those things and be able to get straight in here. That's a rolling program. Some of you will get emails today, some of you will get emails next week, but they're tracking through things at an incredible speed.
Great. So what am I looking at here, David? What do I see?
First thing I'm going to alert you to is around the left-hand side, just to make sure that we've got things right for you. For a start, country, if it doesn't say United Kingdom, then something's gone wrong. Let us know about it. And then underneath that, we've got your category, which in this case of the organization that Purple 7 have anonymously given to me to share with you, is a large presenting organization. So this is one of those 8 different benchmarks. And the figures that you see here will be different compared to the overall benchmark and the other 7 benchmarks for different types of organizations.
And just out of curiosity, David, what data are we looking at now? Whose data is this? Is this
I don't
specific, an anonymous organization?
Anonymously.
Gotcha. Okay.
I do know that as a large presenting organization, it will be somebody who is principally presenting 1,000+ seats.
Great.
And what you're seeing, the first screen you go into is what's called the key metrics scheme, with your key metrics at the top of it. And you will notice that there are 9 boxes here, of which only 4 are filled at the moment, because there will be more key metrics added to this as we go. But we are launching with a couple of key metrics based on revenue and ticket sales. And those are split down, first of all, in the year to date, and then for the last 30 days on a rolling average. And we'll start, first of all, by focusing on the year to date figures. So this top left-hand box is saying that for this anonymous organization, what we're seeing is that that organization saw a pretty tragic fall of 23% in their revenue year to date for 2020. So since the beginning of 2020, since the last feed has come through, 23% down, which is not great. But when you compare it to their peers have fallen by 27%, meaning that actually this organization is disproportionately performing better. And that's even more the case when you look at the volume of ticket sales. So revenue is box office income, ticket sales is the numbers of tickets sold. And this organization, again, a fall, 21% in tickets sold, but across the benchmark, an even bigger fall, 31%. So on ticket sales, there's a 10% difference. Now, there's various ways of getting into more detail on this, but possibly the easiest is just to click on this box here, give it a second or two to do lots and lots of difficult sums, and you come up with a chart with 3 lines on it. And I'm going to take one away immediately, and you take it away just by clicking this box down here. And then the yellow lines are you as an organization. You as a venue. If you're a group, it's the different venues in the group. So you as a venue. And the dotted line is how you performed last year, and the solid yellow line is how you performed this year. And all of this is done on a 7-day rolling average, which smooths out some of the bumps and makes it easier to read. And what we're seeing here is for this organization, it was tracking pretty much along similar lines all the way up to the 16th of March, where in 2019, it looks like an on sale or something big happened at that point.
Yeah, right.
And lots of tickets. And in 2020, the venue shut, and sales fell steeply. Now, lots of organizations will be looking and thinking along similar lines in terms of, well, yep, we were in the same pretty tragic state, but in terms of the impact of that, am I normal? Have I had a bigger impact? Have I had less impact? And that's where ignoring last year's revenue and clicking back on our green line to look at the benchmark. So this is the other 26, 27 organizations who fall into that large presenting bucket. How am I doing compared to them? And then when we look at this, we get a different story. Still not one with a particularly happy ending at the moment, but that period up until the middle of March, there were variations, but pretty similar. But then that period immediately after the closure, actually, the venue that we're looking at here performed significantly better than its peers on average. But then really recently, in the last few days, week or so, actually it's getting pretty much closer down to the levels that everybody else is seeing as well. But in that immediate period there, it was doing something that made it perform better than the norm.
So David, when you're on a point there and we're able to look at figures from a specific day, both of our venue and of and across the benchmark, like if I were to run a report in my box office, would I see pretty much the same numbers here, or where would it be different?
That's a really good question. So it's key for us to remember, sorry, I'm going to take us back here. It's key for us to remember that this is about sales, and it's not about refunds, except for if a refund was made within 7 days of the original booking. So if you run a report in your box office, it will probably net off the refunds. This is not netting off refunds except for pretty immediate refunds. So yeah, you could absolutely see that you could have a different figure, and this is probably over-reporting compared to what you're getting out of your box office at the moment.
Right. And if I had tickets that were exchanged for something else later, or if I had tickets that were converted into a donation, the data in this chart is only going to show me what the original purchase was, even though that revenue has been moved around within the organization. It's going to show me the original intent or the original timing of that purchase. Gotcha.
So if you bought a ticket for an event in June that's been moved to October, it will show that you bought the ticket. In terms of that moving to another date, it won't show up again.
Great.
There are really good and big questions around the conversion of ticket sales into either refunds or donations or credit that absolutely we are looking at. But this is a really complicated area to explore. That's complicated with one box office system, given all the feeds that Purple 7 are taking, coming up with a benchmark that it's going to take account all of the different approaches of those systems. It's going to take a bit of time, but that is still an aspiration so that we'll get able to report on that as well. But this is about volumes of ticket sales. That's the focus for this benchmark.
Great. And a really important, simple, clear starting point. Just how, in the most basic terms, how am I doing compared to others in regards to ticket sales? Is this information that I can turn into a report or share, within my organization?
Absolutely. Although you'll have to remember, right-click your mouse.
Right.
And that should allow you to share. There we go. Share. And then you've got all sorts of options. You can do it as PDFs. You can do it as images, all sorts of things.
Oh, I see PowerPoint on there. You're speaking my language,
Absolutely.
David Brownlee. TRG loves some PowerPoint. All right. What about how the figures may update? If I were to look at these tomorrow, would the lines be different? Would the numbers be different?
There will be differences, and there will be differences for different reasons. So the first thing is it's taking a feed from your system on a daily basis. So on an almost live basis, you will get your data updated and then updated against the benchmark for the next day of activity. Generally, that happens overnight. Sometimes feeds are a bit sticky and it can be middle of the next morning before you're updated and everybody else is updated. But should be by lunchtime, you got pretty much real-time data. That's the general rolling updates, but there are other things that are going to have an impact as well in terms of the reporting and how it's working. So the benchmark figure, that is going to change over time. The historic data will change for two reasons. The first one is that we might move people into different buckets. Of those 8 buckets that we've got at the moment, we may create more buckets. So that will create change. And then we'll have a load of new organizations coming into the data set as well, which will add to that historic knowledge and give a better, more accurate mean figure for the historic figures as well.
Great.
So when you end up doing your report and seeing a curved line, and then do that report again a month later, and it shows a slightly different curved line, don't be surprised.
What about the benchmark data over on the right-hand side of the chart there, David, with the figures there? Can you walk me through those?
Absolutely. So this at the moment, remember, we're looking at year to date. I'm going to take you to 30 days shortly, but year to date, what we're seeing is that for this organization, their revenue has dropped by 22.9%. But for the benchmark, it's 26.8%. Now, you've seen those figures before, but they were rounded up to 23% and 27%.
Right.
And so what you're seeing down here is that 4% difference, which is here. You're getting it to one more decimal point at 3.8% there. And then the information below it is showing the figures around revenue. This year, 2.4 million. Last year, 3.1 million, meaning a difference between the 2 years of over 700,000. If we click on the ticket sales tab and give it a moment, we're getting the same things. So here we go, 21.4% versus 31%. So we said 10% is 9.6% when we put a decimal point in there. And in terms of numbers of tickets sold, around 23,000 less tickets sold up until this point this year.
Okay.
So
you said there's a 30-day view as well, right?
Oh, sorry, Brad.
You said there's a 30-day view as well.
Absolutely. Let me take you to the 30-day view. Now, there are two ways of getting here. On the left-hand side here, you'll see that we've got a bar that will immediately take us there. Otherwise, we can go back to our key metrics, and we've got the 2 buttons at the bottom here, and we can use either of these to go into the 30-day view. Now, for me, the 30-day view is probably the thing that I would be looking at if I was back in a venue on a daily basis. The year-to-date is fascinating and useful and tells me the story in terms of what's happened this year. for the sector and my organization and how the two compare. But the 30 days is telling me how am I doing compared to my peers now. And this will roll. So every day you'll get a new day on the right-hand side and one will fall off on the left-hand side. Again, it's being done on a 7-day rolling average basis, which explains why we got this slightly weird kind of void here on the left-hand side, because we need to have that data in here, but it's not a full 7 days. So it's only when we get the full 7 days that things start reporting here.
Right.
And what we're seeing here now is in a lot more granularity. Let's get rid of last year's revenue. A lot more granularity is how am I performing against the benchmark over time. And this organization was doing really, really, really well. It's still doing better than its peers. Mm-hmm. And that's where we all want to be. We want to be above the green line.
And having this layer of granularity is going to help us in time be looking for not only when does the benchmark line begin to lift up and drift upwards, but when does our line start to do the same? And what does our line do in comparison to the benchmark when we, in this 30-day view, we're able to watch on a more granular basis? What starts to happen when we can anticipate a rebound in sales?
Absolutely, absolutely. If you do something, if you are proactive in terms of your activity, we want to see your line going up, and we want to learn from that. And if you find things that are working and meaning that you're not normal, you're better than normal, we want you sharing those things with the community. So let us know what's working and let's share it amongst the sector.
What's next, David? Because me as a consultant, my mind goes to wanting to immediately to understand what you were just describing, which is how would certain organizations perform differently than the benchmark, who's ahead, who's behind, understanding why, digging deeper and understanding what patrons or segments of our audiences or of our market are responding well, or responding not as well. What can I look forward to, I guess, in terms of future functionality for this benchmark to help me get a little deeper understanding into what's going on behind the numbers?
Yeah, I think need to answer that in two ways. I think number one, our colleagues at Purple 7 who have access to the raw data as processors for organizations taking part in this, they will be prodding about in the data and looking for the organizations who are overperforming against their peers and trying to find out from them what they can do in terms of what are they doing to make a difference and to have an impact. And where possible, with permission, sharing that information with the group more broadly. In terms of the technical functionality, there's a long list, but at the top of that list is analysis by buyer type. And that will use behavioral segmentation to look at different types of buyers, from our first timers to our occasional buyers to our loyalists, and to see how they are behaving compared to the historic for our organization, but also against the benchmark of our peers. So are we seeing that our loyalists are, of that smaller proportion of sales taking place, are they a higher proportion than they have been previously? Probably yes for most organizations. But are they really, really doing that on a big level compared to my peers? Am I normal? Or actually, could my loyalists be doing more as they are in other organizations? It's those kind of questions.
Do you have a sense of timing? All of that sounds fantastic, and I want to get my grubby little fingers on that information right away. Do you have a sense of when this might happen?
I'm really hoping that you'll see more buttons in your key metrics within the next couple of weeks.
Very good. Okay, good. I will look forward to that. I'm going to touch on a couple of technical questions that have come up, David, that seem to be a good fit for where we are in our conversation. So remind us, how long do we think it's going to take for non current Purple 7 users to be able to access the dashboard? Do we have a sense of how long that might be before they get their
It's
login?
a slightly how long is a piece of string question based on the system that you're using and how quickly you respond to emails and do the things that we need you to do, which generally are not onerous at all, but they do vary slightly from system to system. Our hope is that things will move very rapidly, and that it's particularly those of you who've made the efforts to be here today, we'll try and encourage you to be pushed up the queue so that you can get in here as quickly as you possibly can do.
Great. Another good CRM ticketing question has come in about having made a recent transition on a CRM. So was on Test before, but since last year has been on TicketSolve. The assumption here is that Purple 7 would really only access and use the data from your current CRM and would only look back to the point to which you have data from TicketSolve, so not reaching back into the days that you had Test unless you ported that data over.
Unless
when
you
moved from Test to
over, which you
TicketSolve.
probably did.
Right.
In which case it should come through, no problem.
Great. Very good. What about feedback, David? Once folks and organizations are able to dive into this and start playing around in the benchmark, how can they share feedback with us and our friends?
Really good question, Brad. So let's take us back in here again. Your session is about to expire. Resume. Here we go. So hopefully you're seeing the screen back again. Down on the bottom left, there is a tell us your questions button, which takes you into a lovely form where you enter your name, your email, and your feedback, send it through to us, and we will respond as quickly as we possibly can.
Great.
So if you think that you're in the wrong bucket in terms of venue type, this is the way to let us know about it. And we'll make it right, and we'll let you know when we have.
Excellent. What about a couple more technical questions here, David, if you don't mind? What about metrics in terms of future visibility in the benchmark? What about the difference between reserved tickets and paid tickets? Is that something we will be able to see, or can you tell me what the data is telling me right now about the difference between paid and reserve? And what do we expect to be able to see in the future in the benchmark?
At the moment, I believe we are looking at paid tickets only. We will double check that and make absolutely clear. I have to say that standing here, I am not the technical expert. Those are those very smart people at Purple 7. I think for most organizations, reservations are less of an issue than they were 15, 20 years ago. But absolutely, if that is a big issue for you as an organization, let us know. And if enough people say that, then we'll look at it in terms of functionality and what we can do. So
that would be a great example of something to maybe add to that feedback tool to say, and to explain, even if it's for a particular segment. I think in this case, there's a question about future programming and moving things to the future where you may be taking reservations for something, but it hasn't been paid. Maybe within one of the buckets or within a cohort, there's a way for us to look at some of that. Very good. Let's see, a few more questions. Income can change significantly from year to year. Will folks have the option to compare their data to more than just the previous year? My sense is no here, right? We're really just looking at 1 year back, and each organization may have to take that particular year in context with a grain of salt when thinking about their story, but really the current data is what's being compared to the benchmark. That may be where there's the most usefulness in understanding where am I now compared to my peers now, rather than where was I last year.
I couldn't have put it better myself. Absolutely.
Great. So I'm another question here. I take it ACE are aware of this benchmark. Is it okay to reference how we track against the benchmark in applications to the emergency fund? What are your thoughts on that, David? Does that put you on the spot?
Arts Council are very much aware of the benchmark, and was having conversations with them earlier on this morning. I think absolutely, in terms of your applications, reference to the fact that you're taking data seriously and you're taking part in a major sector-wide initiative. Good for you. Yeah.
Great. Good. Yeah, that's already thinking about how to use the tool, not only internally, just to do a temperature check, a health check on where am I at, but starting to think about how to use that information to tell your story to stakeholders, to funders, to the community, that you can, make, not only internally be able to make decisions around, but externally be able to engage the folks who care most about your organization. All right, we have a little more time for questions if you want to send those in. In the meantime, David, I may ask you to pop up, can we return maybe to the PowerPoint, and I can talk about what is coming up next. There it is. So many of you are aware that TRG and our CEO, Jill Robinson, is leading weekly digital roundtables in providing adaptive counsel, and each week there's a sort of a different topic and theme in how we are addressing and strategizing and responding nimbly and in real time to the challenges that arts, cultural, and entertainment organizations are facing in North America as well as the UK. So the next one of these, TRG 30 virtual roundtables, is this evening, 6:30 p.m. in the UK, and there's a URL there you can go to. Again, like the benchmark, it's entirely free and open for everyone to attend. You don't have to be a TRG client. You don't have to be a Purple 7 client. All of the previous roundtables are posted on the TRG website. They're recorded as video, so you can engage with that content there. Also, in addition to TRG 30, there is a network, an extended virtual network on LinkedIn. And there are links to that on our site and on the TRG 30 information. Thank you, David. Has it in a slide right there. We've been collecting questions broadly about how arts and cultural organizations can be approaching and responding to the challenges that they're facing, and we're posting responses. Our consulting team is posting free responses, both written and in video form, to help folks navigate these choppy waters for sure. I see a couple more questions come up, David, that I will read in real time. It seems very simple to use, but is there support available for non-Purple 7 users? And how does this work? I imagine that there's a way, whether it's through maybe through the feedback channel there, David, if you don't have a support account with Purple 7 as one potential avenue for getting support. Are there others that you know of in this moment?
If you're completely stuck, absolutely, but it is designed to be really intuitive, and spending 15 minutes on it, you should absolutely get your head around it. We will also, as you said, we've recorded this. We hope to embed bits of video in the dashboard as well, so that if you get to something that you don't quite know how it works, you'll be able to click on the video and get somebody to talk you through it.
Great. One additional question from someone who does not have access but is looking for general information around benchmarking for this sector. Was on a call yesterday. Someone mentioned they're being advised to plan for 30% of normal revenue across the year. Does this align with findings so far? So what's interesting here is that at the moment, the tool and the data that we have is not predictive, would be the number one thing I would say. It's backward looking, basically from this moment in time and looking back. It does not, and I would not recommend using this particular benchmark to try to anticipate what future sales or what future revenues would be at right now. This is really just more of being able to take your own temperature. Just putting the thermometer in your mouth to determine what your body temperature is in this moment. And just like a thermometer, it's not going to tell you how long that temperature is going to stay, and there's no indication of how long, if you have a fever, you're going to be running that fever. Is the way that I would approach this. I would approach this tool. I think it's an important question, and one that we feel strongly about organizations thinking proactively and creatively around how to anticipate what the impact to future revenues will be from this. But I think for the perspective of this particular tool, this is more of a backward-looking tool than a forward-looking tool, and I think you will have to dig around for other pieces of data, other insights to help inform your ability to look at future projections. What we are seeing is what we're seeing in the benchmark, right? That there has been, and if you imagine basically the ski slope that you saw there in the benchmark, that in some cases that's as much as 80, 90% of where revenues were before. But that's in this moment, in the first few weeks of the disruptions. And we know, as David mentioned, these lines will change. And organizations that are being proactive in responding to the challenges are making decisions on strategy and campaigns and how they're engaging their patrons to change the way those lines look. And that's a part of our mentality. How we will use this tool going forward will be, how can we move those lines? And how will we know that the steps we are taking as organizations are having an impact on the lines, on the benchmark, and on our own revenue? Not being able to predict the future, but yes, being able to tell us what is working and with what segments of our patrons are our strategies working. It's a great and important question, though. Thank you for that.
Just add to that, Brad, as opposed to a backward tool, it's a now tool.
It's a now tool, right? Yeah,
this is
good.
where things are
better.
happening now.
Yeah.
We don't know. We don't know whether venues are going to be shut for the next 6 weeks or the next 12 weeks or however long it is, but we do know what's happening now.
Yep. All right. I think I have no open questions, is what it says in my very fancy Zoom question webinar window. We can give it another minute or two in case something else comes up, but otherwise, thank you all for the really important work you are doing in your communities to continue the mission and the purpose and most importantly, looking forward to a day to connect arts and culture and entertainment to our constituencies and to our neighborhoods. So thank you for doing this hard and important and difficult work. Thank you for being a part of this community and coming together with your peers and colleagues across the UK to share information and to share learning. And we hope that grows and continues in time. We'll follow up with an email afterwards that will give you a link once the link is ready to be able to share this video with others. In that you'll be able to see the links to the TRG30 resources. And for those of you who don't have it already, remember to just stay tuned for an email from Purple 7 that will provide you bespoke information on how to access your organization and venues dashboards. David, what else would you add in closing here?
I would just say a big thank you again for being a pioneer, and just encourage everybody to talk to their friends, their colleagues and other organizations. The more organizations we have participating, the more valuable this is going to be on numerous different levels. Well said. Thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon. Thank you to Purple 7 and on behalf of TRG Arts, thank you all so much for participating in this project.